Good morning, everyone. How are you? I hope you're doing absolutely well. Last time I made a video on the landscape of the soul. I have my NCRT book of class 11th. I'm going to do the translation into English only. I will explain each and every word of this chapter. And meanwhile, if you feel any difficulty, you are free to ask. Okay. So here I go. Landscape of the soul. What do you mean by landscape? Landscape means scenery or scene of the soul. Soul means, there is body, there is soul. Soul is like a battery and body is like the object. Fine. So, landscape of the soul. You can understand now. It is written by Nathalie Trouveroy. Nathalie Trouveroy. Okay. And here I start the text. A wonderful old tale is told about the painter Wu Diazo, who lived in the 8th century. His last painting was a landscape commissioned by the Tang Emperor Xuanzong to decorate a palace wall. Actually, in this story we will be discussing about the form of art. If I classify art into more segments, then I will be talking about painting. It is of Chinese painting, it is of Western painting. What is the difference between a Chinese painting and a westernized painting? So that in detail we will be discussing. So in the very first line, what is written? There is one painter's name written, Wu Diazo. There is one painter's name written, Wu Diazo, who used to live in 8th century, and this is 2022. So you can understand how many days before this painter had been lived. His last painting is being discussed here. He perhaps painted a landscape. As I said, landscape is a presentation of natural scene by painting here. And Wu Diazo, who used to be a painter, he painted a landscape, as I said. And that landscape to be painted, it was an order passed by Tang Emperor Xuanzong. Tang Emperor Xuanzong. Mark all these names of each person, because in your examination these names can be asked. Who was the painter? Who was the emperor? Fine. So that's why I'm just repeating the same word over and again. Then what is written? Why did he choose to, why did he order, why did the prince, why did the king order to have that painting at his palace? Because he used to like it. The master had hidden his work behind a screen and only the emperor would see it. There is some strange activity you would see of the painter, because he said that only the emperor would be able to see the painting of the painter. There is no other person is allowed to see what had been painted. The master had hidden his work behind a screen, so only the emperor would see it. For a long while, the emperor admired the wonderful scene, discovering forests, high mountains, waterfalls, clouds floating in an immense sky, men on hilly paths, birds in flight. Here we are getting a vivid description of the landscape, what was there on the painting. So firstly, there is written forest. You can understand what is the meaning of forest: trees, plants, flora, fauna, like this. Everything is intermingled into the same position. Then high mountains, and then waterfalls, then clouds floating. There is the vast sky, and then the birds are flying. All these descriptions are given, are there in the painting. Then what is written? "Look, sire," said the painter, "in the cave at foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." Now the painter said, "King." Sire means any person who is having a high prolific personality, a high class person. Here king is preferred. Here is written, "In this cave at the foot of the mountain dwells a spirit." There is the mountain, as I said, there is the painting of the mountain in the landscape, and it is being said that there also a spirit lives. The painter clapped his hands and the entrance to the cave opened. Once the painter clapped with his hands like this, the cave started opening. It is somewhat reminding me of an episode where I watched when I was a child, Khulja Simsim. Once a person is clapping in front of the cave, the door of the cave opens, and when he used to clap once again, it used to close. Similar incident is happening in this case also. So this is how you can remind yourself till the examination, so that you would not be able to forget it at any cost. Fine. Then the painter clapped hands and the entrance to the cave opened. The inside is splendid, beyond anything words can convey. Now the scenery of inside, how it used to look, that is being written here. That is very beautiful to look at, the sight of the cave inside. "Please let me show your majesty the way." The painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him. Now painter entered the cave, but the entrance closed behind him, and before the astonished emperor could move or utter a word, the painting had vanished from the wall. That means when the painter himself tried to enter, the entrance got closed, and at the same time, what other things are happening? The painters paint, and then other stuffs, that means the brush and all this were vanished, and the emperor could not be able to see it anywhere, all those there. Okay, so that's how there is a kind of conflict, there is a kind of chaotic situation produced. This is somewhat, don't you think so, magical? I do think so, because if I see any paint and in front of me the painter tries to enter the scene, the landscape that he has painted, and at the time when he is trying to get into the scenery, before entering, everything starts vanishing slowly, including the brush that was being used by the painter, and all these things are being observed by me very minutely in front of me. All these activities are taking place. So this is somewhat very strange, this is somewhat very magical. So that's why there is a tone of strangeness, weirdness we can trace. Okay. Now, such stories played an important part in China's classical education. Okay. Not a trace of Wuju's brush was left, and the artist never seen again in this world. And thereafter, even the artist also got vanished. Thereafter, with the painting, the artist also got vanished. Such stories played an important part in China's classical education. The books of Confucius and Zhuangzi are full of them. They help the master to guide the disciple in the right direction. Now, this kind of stories are quite famous when we talk about Chinese tradition, because if you talk about the Hinduism, the holy epics, the Mahabharata, the Ramayana, where most of the time you can read the magical incidents took place, be it Ravana's vehicle by which he used to fly, then arc and bow that used to have some magical powers, so on. So the same thing is happening in this case as well. All these kinds of examples, that used to happen in Hinduism, magical incidents used to take place in China as well. All these things you will get to see in the books of Confucius and Zhuangzi. These names are quite important for the examination point of view. Again, remind you repeatedly. Okay, they help the master to guide his disciple in the right direction. These books used to help the guide his disciple in the right direction, you can say. I mean to say, by reading a book, a person becomes master. Okay, and then when his master used to guide his disciple, that disciple also following the right direction to get his mission done by painting as such majestic ones. Beyond the anecdote, they are deeply revealing of the spirit in which art was considered. And there is no other incident, there is no other references I can give by which I can make you out the importance, the value of the Chinese painting. It is unparalleled. Here it is written. Contrast this story or another famous one about a painter who would not draw the eye of a dragon he had painted for fear it would fly out of the painting, with an old story from my native Flanders that I find most representative of Western painting. Now, here another painter's painting is being discussed, in which the painter is not wanting to paint the eye of the dragon. Why? Because the dragon's eye, once the eyes of the dragon are sketched by the painter, it will have the energy, it will have the soul, it will have the spirit to fly out the painting frame, and it will come alive. That's why the painter has himself not decided to sketch it thoroughly by painting the eyes of the dragon. So you can understand the realism that is being stressed upon here in this story, in this paintings of the China. So you can understand. So all these things you have to keep in your mind. Again, all these things are important for your examination point of view. And again, another person who used to belong to Flanders. Flanders is the name of a place, most probably, what I have understood, that represents Flanders. Flanders, this word represents Western painting. As I said before, meanwhile reading the story, there will be a glimpse of Chinese painting and Western painting. So almost we have completed the journey of Chinese painting, what it used to be, how it used to be. Now after some time we will also encounter some of the features of Western painting as well. So in 15th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quentin Matsai fell in love with a painter's daughter. Now we will also go through a kind of love journey of a person who used to be a blacksmith. He fell in love with a painter's daughter, and that painter's daughter used to love him back as well, but there was an opposition from her father's side. Her father did not get her daughter married off to a blacksmith. What is the meaning of blacksmith? Blacksmith is a person who makes things with associated with iron, and then iron and all these kinds of elements. Okay, at that after some point of time, what he did, that blacksmith, he drew a magnificent, a super realistic fly on the painting that had been painted by that daughter's father, and later on they got married because of looking that magnificent fly sitting on that landscape, on that painting, I mean to say. So that's how it is going to happen. So again, I'm just going to elaborate it line by line. Stay hooked, you will be understanding. Okay, in 5th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quint Matsey fell in love with a painter's daughter. The father would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, so Quinton sneaked into the painter's studio. And who is that man? In 5th century this is happening, and that blacksmith's name is Antwerp. What? Antwerp. Again I'm saying Antwerp. Master called blacksmith called a master. Okay, my mistake. That in 5th century Antwerp, a master blacksmith called Quint Vasily fell in love. Yeah, his name is Antwerp, and he used to be called by this name Quint Matsey. He was fall in love with painter's daughter. Fine. The father would not accept a son-in-law in such a profession, so Quinten sneaked into the painter's studio and painted a fly on his latest panel with such delicate realism. What is the meaning of delicate realism? Delicate realism means that seems very real. Anything that seems very real, that the master tried to sweat it away before he realized what had happened. And then the master came there. That means that daughter's father, he used to fly it away, but it was a failure task. Quinten was immediately admitted as an apprentice into his studio. Then what happened? Quinten was immediately admitted to an apprentice into his studio. He became an apprentice. Apprentice is a person who learns by doing that stuff at an institution, here in this painting shop or somewhere. So that's how he then married his beloved and went on to become one of the most famous painters of his age, and then he became a very famous painter, by the way. These two stories illustrate what each form of art is trying to achieve: a perfect illusionistic likeness in Europe, the essence of inner life and spirit in Asia. So what is the meaning of illusionistic likeness? Illusion means what? You see the stuff that is not real, and likeness, somewhat alike, somewhat similar. So illusionistic likeness, in this case, in terms of picture, I can elaborate by saying that pictorial, the way a painter pictures a picture, that deceives you, that deceives your eyes actually. That's how it can be described. So here we are getting again the flavor of Chinese painting and how it is different from westernized painting. That will be also matter of discussion. Fine. In the Chinese story, so inner life and spirit in Chinese painting, inner life and spirit can be visualized in the paintings simply. In the Chinese story, the emperor commissions a painting and apprentices its outer appearance. Okay, but the artist reveals to him the true meaning of his work. What does it mean? It means if you are talking about Chinese story, Chinese painting, the emperor orders a painting and appreciates it. Okay, fine. What the emperor appreciates? The emperor appreciates the outer appearance of the painting. Like, okay, but the artist reveals him to the true meaning of his work. But artist will teach him the process by which a painting to be looked into. When I use looked into, that means it is not, my observation will not be limited till the aerial view of the painting. I will use my eyes, I will move my eyeballs to go through each and every detail of the painting that has been presented to me, right from right to left, left to right, across all the area I will cover. So this is somehow the process of observing a Chinese painting, and it used to be done by the Chinese painters, and then it used to be taught by Chinese painters to the emperors, as here it is written. Fine. Okay, now next, the emperor may rule over the territory he has. Okay, the artist reveals him to the true meaning of his work. The emperor may rule over the territory he has conquered, but only the artist knows the way within. Let me show you the way, the Deo. A word that means both the path or the method and the mysterious works of the universe. The paintings, okay, let me explain it till here. Deo is the name used to show the method, how you see a painting, how you observe a painting. That method's name is Dao, D-A-O. Again, this is a Chinese name, that's why some weirdness is there. And the artist says, let me show you the way. That means I teach you how you should look at the painting. The painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. Now the painting is gone. Now the painting is gone, but the artist has reached his goal beyond any material appearance. Okay, Diao is a word used for the method as well as mysterious works of the universe. Works means painting and all. Now the painting is gone. There is no existence of this kinds of paintings from China. Even by this time, the artist has also reached his goal. Whatever he wanted to do, he has achieved, and beyond any material appearance, and there is no need to show, or there is no need to show the appearance structure of the painting, because he has succeeded to get much attention of the people to look, to feel, to discuss about the realistic approach that had been made by these painters from China. So already the task has been fulfilled. This time it is not required anymore. This is the sense of this sentence. Fine. Now come next. A classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view as would a Western figurative painting. Here it is written in this line. First of all, you have to understand the meaning of figurative painting. What is the meaning of figurative painting? Figurative painting means any strong references that have been used to relate with real world or human beings. Any strong references that have been used to relate with real world or human beings. Figurative paintings, that means. So a classical Chinese landscape is not meant to reproduce an actual view. It is not obligatory, it is not compulsory that the Chinese landscape is going to show the actual view. Actual view means what? You feel, as there was again written, it has to be dealt with actuality, realistic approach, but then here it is written that there should be no actual view for Chinese painting, as would a Western figurative painting. Now Western figurative painting is being highlighted. I mean to say Western painting, how it should be, and what is the feature of Western painting that has been stressed upon. It is being described with this with these two words, figurative painting. Fine, figurative painting. Okay, whereas the European painter wants you to borrow his eyes and look a particular landscape exactly as he saw it from a specific angle, the Chinese painter does not choose a single point of view. Now if you are talking about an European painter, he wants you that you should look at the painting from from a particular landscape, okay, from any specific angle. That means I am an European painter, I am saying you that you are seeing my video, fine, you can see me, so I just say you to look me from right hand side, from this angle, okay, from this angle, like from this angle, okay, or from that angle, so like this. This is my, you can assume, painting of, this is the painting of mine, and I'm directing you to see from that angle or this angle. You will understand what my painting is, you can understand that, okay, so like this. But if you are talking about a Chinese, Chinese art, what does it mean? Chinese painter does not choose a single point of view. His landscape is not a real one. You can enter it from any point. Okay, if I am a Western painter, I will particularly say that from this angle you enter, fine. And if I am a Chinese painter, then I will only say that you have to see this very painting from my point of view. You have to borrow my eyes in order to see what I have painted. Okay, now the Chinese painter does not choose a single point of view, and the Chinese painter does not use a single point of view. His landscape is not a real one. His landscape is not a real one. That means it is not real one, and you can enter it from any point, then travel in it, and then you can enter it and you can travel anytime, and you can travel all through. The artist creates a path for your eyes to travel up and down, so you can move your eyeballs up and down, then back again, then again, like this, in a leisurely movement, and it should be having a great fun doing all this, all that. This is even more true in the case of horizontal scroll. Now horizontal means a line, okay, a straight line. in which the action of slowly opening one section of the painting, then rolling it up to move on to the other, adds a dimension of time which is unknown in any form of painting. That means you will roll your eyes, okay, from the very beginning to the last, okay, like this, to the bottom. You have to move your eyeballs like this, okay, so that you can understand the painting more better. It requires the active participation of the viewer, who decides at what pace he will travel through the painting. That means once you see the Chinese painting, once you see the painting, you will come to understand the tour like journey. You will come to understand the tour like journey, sitting on the chair, seeing the painting, feeling as if you were there inside the painting, and getting all the places visualized, felt, already you have reached there, okay, like this. A participation which is physical as well as mental. So there is somewhat physical approach, there is somewhat mental approach. So both approaches are vividly given here. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. Now Chinese painter does not want that you should borrow. The Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. Okay, Chinese painter does not want that you should borrow painter's eyes. Okay, Chinese painter does not want you to borrow his eyes. He wants you to enter his mind. He wants that you should enter from his mind. The way he thinks, you should do the same. You should also think from his thinking, from painter's thinking. An observer should think from painter's thinking, and then he should enter the painting. The landscape is an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual grace. Now if you are talking about the landscape, it's an inner one, a spiritual and conceptual space. Conceptual space means abstract. All these things are happening in imagination, that means in mind. It's all about brain. Okay, whatever images are being formed or produced in the brain itself, you are exhibiting by painting, like this. Okay, now second most thing we are going to deal with. This concept is expressed as shan shui, literally mountain water. Now there is one term you will come across, shan shui, that means mountain water. What do you mean by mountain water? Mountain water means mountain water. You have seen how does the mountain look. Mountains are very tall, right, very rigid, stand there for years, like this. Okay, which used together represent the word landscape. Now if you add on mountain and water, it will give you a scenery of landscape. As we know, this is the part of nature. More than two elements of an image, this represent two complementary poles, reflecting the Daoist view of the universe. Now this is very important again for your examination point of view. What that is? Daoist's point of view of the universe. Daoist, absolutely, this is the Dao is actually the name. Okay, now what he used to think about the mountain, what he used to think about the water, that we are going to deal. The mountain is yang, reaching vertically towards heaven. Now yang is what? Yang is vertically is reaching. It is actually the it is symbolizing the masculinity. Yang is the mountain, it is symbolizing the masculinity, and the mountain is stable, warm and dry in the sun. Whereas if you are talking about water, water is yin. Yin, water symbolizes femininity. that is horizontal. Horizontal means like this. Okay, horizontal. Yeah, then it is resting on the earth, it is fluid. Okay, and then it is moist and it is cool. Okay, so all these things are the examples. All these things, just to wait. Yeah, okay. Now yen is horizontal, resting on the earth. It is on earth. Okay, then fluid, and then it is moist, there is moisture, and it is always cool. So all these words showing femininity. The interaction of yin, the receptive feminine aspect of the universal energy. That means in between the mountain and the water there is a universal energy. Actually that is void. That position is so called void. We will also we will also come to familiarization after some time. Okay, the interaction of counterpart yang, active and masculine, is of course fundamental notion of Taoism. What is more overlooked is essential third element, the middle void, where their interaction takes place. Now, as I said, the level or the stage between the mountain and water, that point is so called middle void, where the interactions takes place. This can be compared with the yogic practice of pranayama. Now this middle void can be compared with the yogic practice of the pranayama. In pranayama, what do? We generally breathe in and breathe out, and in between, after breathing in, we pause for a second. That pausing stage is so called middle void. So pranayama, breathe in, retain, breathe out. The suspension of breath is the void where meditation occurs, and that is where that is where the place where meditation takes place. The middle void is essential, nothing can happen without it. So middle void, that means pausing state, is very important. Hence the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape. And here at last the importance of the white unpainted space in Chinese landscape becomes essential. Perhaps white is the cloud or the mountains, it can be, and then unpainted space. Okay, all this become very important in Chinese landscape. This is also where man finds a fundamental role. In that space between heaven and earth, he becomes the channel or conduit of communication. Now who is the okay now if you are talking about the heaven and earth, human beings become a functional player where they can move from one place to another. Here is written, only the human beings become the functional player that connects the earth and the heaven. Okay, his presence is essential. If it's only suggested, far from being lost or oppressed by the lofty peaks, he is, in Francois Chang's wonderful expression, the eye of the landscape. Now nature has its abundant examples in terms of mountains, in terms of lakes, in terms of rivers. So the human beings too. And at last, what here is written in Francois Chang's wonderful expression, Francois Chang has used this expression, the eye of the landscape. Okay, the eye of the landscape. With this, the story takes an ending. So we have read about the importance, the features, the characteristics of Chinese painting and Western painting. And we also come across the name of the emperor. We also come across femininity, masculinity, what the natural elements that symbolize the masculinity and femininity. So you have to keep all these things in your mind and be prepared for your examination. As far as I have understood, I try to pass it on. Still, if you have any doubt, you are free to ask me anytime. Thank you for having me for so long. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.